If I pull this one out of the box, it better not smell like a whole bunch of dirty laundry. Hello, toy fans. I'm here with another one of our toy openings today. I've got a special one because this one was sent to me by a long-time Talking Toys with Taylor and Jeff fan and a long-time watcher of my YouTube channel as well. Jared, thank you so much for this really awesome Masterverse figure. Now, I have already taken it out, played with it, checked out the articulation, and made sure nothing seized up or broke on us, so we're good on this. But I'm going to have to say something right off the bat. I was not a big fan of the Revelation cartoon itself on Netflix. I was kind of bored with it, to be honest, and I felt like out of some of the comic books that we'd gotten in the past, especially the run of He-Man, the Masters of the Universe, when He-Man lost his memory and Skeletor was basically taking over Eternia and trying to open up the void and open up, multiple accesses across the universe, and they were hunting down Marlena or trying to find Marlena back on Earth, and they ran into the Superman, the other superheroes. Like, I really enjoyed that run of the series of He-Man. I was really hoping Revelations would be more like it. Instead, I don't know. I just didn't really care much for it. Some of it is that it was supposed to be a continuation of the show, but it didn't really feel like a continuation of the show, and He-Man just was kind of pathetic in the beginning. So was Duncan. And a lot of the characters just felt kind of overlooked. But one character in there that I really liked and enjoyed watching was Stinkor, and I loved seeing how they adapted him for where he was living in the world of Eternia and Revelation. And I happen to like this figure too, and I believe it works really well with some of the new Eternia figures that are out. Now, Stinkor here, of course, is a part of the Masterverse series of figures, so it's a nice 7-inch figure with lots of good articulation, 30 points to be exact, and a few accessories to kind of change up the look, hands and such. Now, it does come in this open bubble here. We get the box that says Masters Universe Revelation Stinkor, made by Mattel. And it's a nice window box. We can see pretty much everything that comes with him inside the box. Now, this one, instead of having the 40th anniversary, does say it's a Netflix original series, so we get that Netflix logo over there. And then the top has that kind of bubble where it comes back almost a card back, so that way we can hang it up or have it in box. Let's go to the side. On the side, we do have Stinkor in a really nice Art Deco here to kind of show what he looks like. Now, this differs a little bit from the look of him on the show, and differs a little bit from the action figure in that the show, a lot of his armor was more kind of streamlined and flat, whereas this, it has a lot of ridges and some extra colors in there, like reds and such like that. On the back here, we get Stinkor, evil master of odors. Says, what's that smell? If it's overpowering enough to overwhelm a steaming pile of garbage, that can only mean one thing: Stinkor. Ever the outcast, the rancid wretch disappeared from Skeletor's side, only to be found hoarding ancient artifacts in his putrid pigeon of a hideout. Emitting odors foul enough to bring any hero to their knees, never underestimates the savage stench of Stinkor. I really love Stinkor. When Classics came out with the Stinkor, I got one and absolutely just loved the fact that he was still imbued with patchouli. He had the smell, and he was a nice update of the figure. But a few things I did like about the Classics we're getting here. Let's take a look here. We'll get to that part. Stinkor, of course, we have. Scareglow is one that's on my list. Andra and Fisto, I probably won't get either one because there's something about their design I really don't care much for. The Scareglow I've come across a few times at a decent price, and it's one that I'm seriously debating to have. I'm liking the new Eternia figures from Masterverse, and we're going to look to see how he fits with those. Now, a couple of things I was saying about what I liked about this figure that kind of tied in over with the Classics version. This mask right here and the tanks on the back are nice nods to the 2000X run of the design as well as the classics run of the design as well. He does have more of the kind of the ears and the eyes of the vintage toy, but having that mask and having the tanks takes him more with a 2000X design and kind of feels a little bit more of a new Eternia sort of look about him that still feels very Stinkor, feels very vintage, but has a nice little update to it, including the gloves, the ridge on the gloves, and the boots. So, there's nothing else we could say about this figure until we get it out. Let's get this one out and get to stinking. And straight out of the package, this is what we have. This is our Stinkor. We get this nice shield, and what I like about this shield, it's got the straps on the inside so you can put the hand in, and it feels like an actual shield. Wow, way to go, Mattel. It doesn't have like the clips in it like the classics where it clips on and you're afraid that eventually it's going to go. These instead have straps. That's something I was kind of wondering about with the new Battle Armor He-Man, because he has a peggable system. Not quite sure about that. This has a really nice metallic blue kind of hue to it as far as the casting, which makes it feel like metal. I'm really liking this look quite a bit. We also get one slapping hand. Or as in the case with my Skeletor, which we'll talk about one day, it's my casting hand. We get one hand to hold a weapon. And then he has another hand to hold a weapon and a fist. And this is what's on him. Now, he also has this face here, which has kind of the squinted eyes. So he's got squinted eyes and then open eyes. And the sculpt is relatively the same, with the exception of that. One thing to keep in mind is that mask does pop off. It pops off with a mouth that's a little more open. And what they've done is they've made a peggable system there that you can peg the mask onto. Now, he's not going to be able to wear the mask on this face with his eyes open. There's no peg. However, you can do it on this face, which is pretty cool. I'm liking it. And I like the look of him as well. Alright, so let's talk about this figure. All in all, I think this figure looks amazing. It looks really cool. He has the blue tank set and they are adhered to his armor. They're not coming off, but you got them adhered to the armor with that metallic blue. You've got the orange there. And there's a lot of nice subtle details within this armor that stand out. Now, keep in mind the red portion here, it's not like raised at all. So it's not like this is raised and painted. This is an actual paint app of that maroon to make that part stand out. I do kind of wish it had a little bit more of this raised section here that would make this feel more mechanical in nature. But, you know, what we got is pretty cool. You do have some line work here along with that kind of voice box looking piece up here. And it's got some nice like detail work in it. Now, as far as articulation, he does have that ball jointed head that allows his head to move around. It's done on a ball joint. So we'll pop that off as needed. You have those ball hinged shoulders here. The swivel biceps. The double hinged elbows. He does have the swappable hands, but each hand has a ball hinged joint there. And it's set where it'll also swivel. He does have that kind of rocking ball torso at the top. He does have the turnable waist as well. Now, as far as the legs, he's wearing underwear, but it's fuzzy underwear. So it's interesting because, you know, He-Man, I think it was like smooth. His is fuzzy, but it's fuzzy brown to match this. Skeletor, which we'll talk about him, he doesn't have any underwear. We do have that kind of it's almost like a ball hinged. Yeah, it's like a ball jointed hip, swivel thighs, double hinged knees. We do have a boot swivel there, along with it's a foot ball hinge. However, the way that this is sculpted with the foot and this kind of cuff here, it makes the feet very difficult to rock forward very much. It'll go back quite a bit, but not forward. And then he has the turn, that swivel on his feet. It's a pretty cool figure. I'm digging it so far. If you want to switch out, just pop the head off. And it pops off pretty well. And then you can pop the other head on, and that's how he looks with his mask. It's pretty cool. You could also pop that hand out. You can just kind of pop the next hand on. Now I found that this hand is fairly loose on mine, like it doesn't seem to really want to stay, so for the most part I've really just been using this pegged hand. Now as far as getting the shield on his hand, you can use the flat hand, but this hand works just as well. Put it over the hand here and just set it in there, and I feel like this one actually works really nice and neat and feels like this settles better than the flat hand. The flat hand tends to stick out over the edge of this, but you could use either one. But I think that this one, as far as the hand, I feel like this one works the best. Now if you were wanting to do a stop motion and you want to have him blink or use his eyes, you could always pop that mask off and he still looks pretty cool. Now just keep in mind the mask won't work on the other head, it's just this one head with the eyes kind of closed. Now his armor does snap off on the side, and it's made of kind of it's almost like a softer plastic kind of material, so it has a little bit of give to it. These tanks are done in a harder plastic and they're glued into place, so you could almost take this off and put it on someone else if you wanted to and switch some of the armor around, which is some of what we loved about He-Man when we were kids, right? Switching arms, switching body parts. Well, not body parts. I mean, it was really just arms and armor, which if you had trap jaw and you wanted to put on someone, that was actually a pretty cool ordeal. Because you had the side armor and the whole arm you could put on someone. Pop, 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 pop. Pop goes the stinky, skunk man weasel. Yeah, I think this is a really cool figure. All in all, I'm really happy with this figure. It was one of those that I kept, going past and going past. I'm like, I'm not doing Revelations. I didn't really care much for the show. I really don't want these figures. And so far out of this series, this is the only one I have. But I feel like he pairs really nicely with a lot of the other figures in the line. Well, let me rephrase that. I feel like he pairs with some of the new Eternia figures exceptionally well. I do kind of wonder if they would do a Stinkor in the new Eternia or not, because the new Eternia seems to be more based on the Mark Taylor side of drawings and designs and early concept work, which Stinkor wasn't really a part of. But it does make me wonder, if he did, how would that look change? Would it be similar to what we have now or not? And even if we don't get a new Eternia Stinkor, the fact that, we've got this one and he works so well with the other figures is a really nice nod to Revelations not going too animated with some of their figures. They could have toned it down and actually had it to where he didn't have quite as much fur designed on him and he was smoother to make him look more animated versus what we have here. But the fact that we did get those nice subtle details in not only electronics but in fur and face makes him feel like the better end of those animated figures that we had. Whereas I think like with Fisto, like his armor and stuff, it's a little lacking in a lot of detail and design. This picks up where that one kind of dropped off. One downfall that I would say is the fact that, and it's something I didn't bring up in the initial review, he doesn't actually smell. And to me, that's kind of a big point. I would have liked to have had that patchouli smell, because to us, the collectors, the people who grew up with He-Man, that's kind of a nod back to what we're getting. And it seems like an easy thing to just imbue some of the plastic with patchouli. I know classics did the same. Granted, my Stinkor, after a while, they kind of stopped stinking. But just to have that out of the box and to relive that kind of vintage sort of feel would have been nice. But we didn't have to have it. We didn't get it, and it'll be okay. It would have been nice if we had. Now, that's all I gotta say about the odious Stinkor. I want to thank Jared one more time for this amazing sample. I'm really glad to have him on my shelf with other Masterverse figures. Now remember, they're not dolls, they're skunk-like men with face masks. They smell so bad that I had to wear a face mask. When I'm not recording videos here on YouTube, I'm actually over on a podcast on marvindogmedia.com called Talking Toys with Taylor and Jeff. It's a really cool toy podcast. Be sure to check it out. Also, I need your help getting my YouTube channel to grow. Be sure to subscribe down below with that big red button. Hit that bell for notifications so you can be alerted of anything that comes from me to you. Like this video, it helps YouTube know that you like what I'm making, and comment down below. I like chatting with you all.
P.U., you foul beast! Would it hurt you to take a bath every once in a while?